in progress.
Okay, so basically what we are trying to do right now is I'm going to download a simple project from our Spring Initializer. Okay, if you have a Eclipse, you can directly create the project. Okay, but since we are using IntelliJ, I'll download the project from Spring IO and then we can use it. So there you need to go to the Spring Initializer and start that Spring IO here. I'm going to create a very simple application, okay, not the complicated one. So we are going to create as a Maven project and not a Gradle project. So let me name it. So com dot, maybe what can say rest dot impl, and the artifact name is API. And I can do a simple demo project for Spring Boot, and we're using it as a package as a jar, and we are going to use the Java 8. Okay, so these are all the project, and now we have to add the dependency. We are not going to add anything different. We're going to ask the very basics, the Spring Web component alone. Okay, and then generate. So when you click generate, it automatically package everything. It will create a file and it will download in a location. Let me create a folder in desktop projects. So inside the project, I'm going to use the REST API and I'm down it. So we got the project downloaded here, and let me extract it. Okay, so now we don't need the zip anymore, so I'm deleted. So we have our project downloaded in the desktop location under the project folder. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to open the project using the IntelliJ IDE, right? So let's go back to our IntelliJ IDE, and here, so we can have we can create a new project or open a new project or get from repository. So we're gonna open the project because we already downloaded it and we kept it in our local machine. So go to desktop, and there you'll have a folder called projects, and this is a project, and click open. It might take a few minutes because it will you remember it will download the dependencies first.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, so now we have the project here, and we can see the source folders here. Under the source folder, we have main and the test. Okay, so under the main only, we will create all the class, I mean Java files, and resource where we can have some additional information which contains the application properties, where if you want to specify a port number, any database information, those things we can provide in the application properties. For now, we are not going to touch anything. So we just downloaded a project. Okay, so whenever you download a project, it contains a simple application, so which contains the annotations of a Spring Boot application. Okay, so this is the entry point. So whenever you have a Spring Boot application, there must be one Java file which contains this Spring Boot application in annotation. So this is the entry point. So just start it and run this dp.main. So if you see the console, you should be able to see what actually it is doing. So it's opening, it's starting the Spring application. Yes, the application has been started and it is using the port 8080. Okay, so now we have an application, and we do have a simple application. It doesn't have anything at all.
Yes.
Okay, but first thing, let me go back to my here. Okay, so when you're using a REST API, there are a few things you need to keep in mind. First step one, you need at Spring Boot application annotation in any of the files. Okay, so which means your application will be up and running, but it doesn't have any properties in it. So I just downloaded a project and added into my IntelliJ, and I started my application. So do we have anything in that project to test it out? There is no APIs are available. The next thing, we need to create the APIs. So step two, create a sample API. Okay, so we're gonna do that now. So the reason why we are creating API, because it can be called using the Postman or any browser. If it is a get one, if it is a post, we have to go for the Postman. Okay, so create the API and then step 3, try different types. Like we have get, post, and update, and delete, and something like patch also. We're not going to use patch anyway. So we have to create a first create application, then create a simple API, and then try different types of methods. Okay. So for now, what I'm going to do is let's create a simple class. Okay. So because we're going to use that as a controller. Do you are aware of what is a controller?
No.
Controller, you don't have to keep it so complicated. Controller is the one which will what to say, that serves the request and the response, getting the request from the user and calling a appropriate API, then get the response back and send it back to the client. That is the purpose of the controller.
Okay.
Okay. So I'm going to create a new package here, or here. Create new Java class and dot rest.impl dot here. I'm going to create a folder called controller. So under the controller, I'm going to create a simple REST controller example. REST controller example. Okay, so now, oh, okay, so it happened here. Let me move it. So let me move back to the different place. Refactor, move class, move the class. Yeah, package controller. Okay, so now we have two packages. One is controller, okay, here. So first what we need to do is, so we need to tell the Spring application, this is the class is going to be acts as a controller, correct? So we need to provide this information, right or wrong?
Yes.
Okay, so the way how we can tell that Spring application, this is my controller with the help of using this controller. Okay, so now what happened? This will act as a server, which will it will accept the request, and based on the request, it will find which API needs to be called and then get the response back and send back to the user. Okay.
Okay.
So now let me create a simple method here. So public, static, or public string, welcome. So this is just a normal method. So whenever you call this method, you will simply return saying like welcome to REST API implementation. Okay. So first, so this is my request handler, and this is a simple method, but it's just a normal method. But we are not talking about the normal method. We are talking about the REST API methods. Okay. So we are not going to need this method. So we are going to convert this method into a web API method or REST API method. Okay. First, I need to tell my Spring application whether what kind of a request this method has to handle, whether it is a get or a post or delete or update. So since it's just getting some information, we can use simply like use the annotation get mapping. So are we good? But
yes,
when this method is used for get mapping, but what is the address? What is the resource? Okay, so that is the information which you need to provide here.
yes.
So if somebody is calling, saying like welcome, welcome or welcome API. So if this resource received by the REST controller, it will call this method. Okay, this is a kind of address. You got it?
Yeah, got it. We need
Okay.
to pass the
And
value.
now we have completed our simple REST API. Okay. So now all we need to do is stop the server and run it again and then try to access this one. Okay. So let me start it. At the same time, let's open the Postman as well. So the application has been started and it is using the port number 8080.
From here only we can open the Postman, Aaron.
Where?
Direct from here only IntelliJ we can open the Postman.
No.
It's just
No, you have to open. You have to go to the Windows and search for the.
that one only. Oh, okay.
Since I'm using Mac, I just use the shortcut. So in the Windows application, you have to do it another way.
Okay.
So I'm going to copy this welcome API and I'm going back to my REST API and we are using 8080. So this is the resource we provided, right?
Yes.
The moment you hit send, this particular call will go to this particular controller. Okay. And then it will try to find, is there any resources contains welcome API? So if it founds that welcome API, this method will be get called and this is the output will be returned back to the controller and then the controller will send the response back to the postman or the user.
Yes.
Okay. So now I'm going to call send. Okay. So now we are getting a 404 error. Okay. So we made a mistake. So we have to provide this slash here. Okay, so now since we made a change, just stop your application once and run it again. Power off. Let's go down. Okay, so the Tomcat has been started. And now let's go back and run it again. Okay, so localhost 8080, welcome API. So something is happening. So we need to find out what is going on, right? So let's see. So get mapping and I'm using the name here. Or I think normally we don't need to provide this. Let's try with this way. Get mapping. Okay, stop. And run it again. So it started again. So I'm gonna run it again. Okay, still we are getting the 404 error. So now we need to think about, so we did everything right, but why it is saying like 404? So let's go back and see what we did wrong. You remember the one which we created yesterday?
Yes.
We can see that to see what we did something different here. So we have main and com example and demo. This is the one we created yesterday, this controller, right?
Yes. Yeah.
See what we did here? We just it's the same thing.
Exactly.
It's the same thing. There is nothing new here.
Yeah.
Okay. So we are sure whatever the implementation which we did, that is right.
Correct.
Okay. So now let's go back. Web by annotation for variable. Okay, cool. So okay, so let's try to modify this. Sometimes the changes will make it takes times to reflect the changes. So I stopped the server and I'm gonna start it one more time. Just the API application. Okay, 8080 now. Let's go. Now I'm going back to it and I'm going to use the simple API and I'm gonna hit it again. Okay, so something is wrong. So we are doing.
So we need to here in the header key, there accept. Shall we need to select that in the header? This accept.
Normally, it's not required at all.
Okay.
Because I did not choose any because I'm using the XML type, right? So we don't need the XML anyway.
Yeah.
So maybe what I can do is I can create a new request. And I'll try this. Welcome. 404. 404 means because every error code has some meaning. If it is relevant to 400, which means the service is not available or we're not able to find it out.
Okay.
Okay. And
Okay.
if it is something relevant to 200, which means success. Success,
Yeah.
updated, deleted, and modified. And if it's something related to 500, which means application is not up and running or server might be down, something like that. Okay, so now let's go back to our IntelliJ and we'll see what went wrong. So this is the way we need to debug our application.
Okay.
Okay, so now let's see what is happening here. So I have a REST controller and I have a get mapping also, and I have the return as well. Let's go back and see what we are missing here.
There's no error here, right? But why still it's not working?
Sometimes the Spring, when the runtime, right, when we do the starting the service, it will load all the resources and it will scan all the services and components. Sometimes they will be not able to retrieve them back successfully. So since I don't find any issues here, but still it is giving an error. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to simply restart your IntelliJ IDE.
Okay.
Terminate and let's open it again. And once we did that, okay, maybe what I can do is let's try to modify the port number and see whether it is going to work or not. Port dot number 8081. Here, let's run this. Okay, so it started again. Let's go back to Postman and we'll see. Let's try to modify the Postman, the port number 8081, and I'm going to click send again. So now what happened? So since I modified the host, modified the port number, what is wrong? Okay, one second, let's check the syntax. The port number. Application dot properties port number. So if you go there, you will find some server.port. Okay. So what did we try? Sir? Oh, okay. So we
Port dot number here.
It's been a while. Normally we don't do that. So
right.
It's now. So let me stop it and let me run it again. And it's a good thing if you end up with a lot of issues. Right. That we're going to learn a lot of new things.
Yeah.
So go back and go back to our Postman and let's run it again. Okay. Still it's saying 404 error. So now normally what do we do? Okay, it's not working, so something is wrong. So let's leave it and we'll try another project and we'll see how it's gonna work. Okay. We're not supposed to leave like that. We have to debug what went wrong.
Right.
Okay. So let's go back and see what we can do better. So we have the REST controller in place, which is pretty good. And we have REST up. Okay, what is this? REST apply controller. So REST controller here. Okay, so okay, so we have REST controller. Okay, let me do one more thing. Let me try to open the recent one demo window. So you remember this is the one which we tried yesterday.
Yes.
Okay, so now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna try to start this one and we'll see what's gonna happen. Oh, this is not the one which you tried yesterday, is it?
Yes.
Okay, I will try it this. file open. Yeah. That's the existing source. We downloaded in the desktop, right, yesterday?
Yeah.
Let's see who's playing that. Open. Finish. Test project. This window. This is HTTP, not this one. Demo. Okay, so this is the one which we tried yesterday, remember?
Yes.
So do you see any difference?
No.
It is pretty much the same.
Same. Yeah.
Not pretty much, it's exactly the same.
Yeah.
Okay, so now what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna run this and we'll see what's gonna happen. Let's try the test, okay? So welcome to REST API implementation. Okay, server started. And I'm going back to, I'm gonna keep the 8080 and the URL which we tried is test, right? See?
Yes. We got.
Other response like that. This is strange.
Yeah. Right.
Okay. The REST controller. So what could be the reason? REST controller. Okay. More application. We have Spring Boot application, which is pretty much the same thing.
Yes.
There is nothing wrong in the XML also. It is also the same way. Okay, fine. The time being, let's use this. Okay, so let's use this and we'll continue that and we'll see what. So what you can do is you can create your own project and try to do the same in your local machine and see what's going to happen.
Okay.
Okay. So now we have the controller, right? We just tried the get mapping. So say hi method. So now what I'm going to do, I'm going to say this as a welcome. And I'm going to remove this method.
Yes.
So now stop it and run it again. Now go back to your Postman and modify the resource to welcome.
Okay.
Yeah, it still works.
Yeah, got it. Fine.
Okay, so fine. So now I tried this. Okay, so now I wanted to try something different. See, if you're getting the resource as a welcome, this implementation will be gets called. Okay. For now, what I need is I want to try some post method, or I want to. Okay, I'm going to try the similar method. So, but in a different way. So instead of say hi, welcome. Welcome to team. So here, what I'm going to do, I'm going to pass string name. Okay, so what I'm trying to do is whenever this method is getting called, I want to simply return welcome, Mr. and the name which we are passing to it. Okay, so we need a resource because whenever that particular resource is getting called, I want to call this method. Okay, so what we can name it as a welcome or team. And most important thing is we need to pass input to this particular variable. Okay, so and we are going to pass this as the part of the URL. So the way how we can do that, slash within the curly braces, you need to provide the variable.
Okay.
So now what happened? So through this name, you will get the input. But at the same time, you need to tell the method the input is coming from the path, take it and then assign it to the input. Okay, this is the path, right? This is the path and this is the path variable. So now what we need to do is at path variable name. So what basically I'm trying to tell is from the path variable, there must be something called as a name.
Passing the name.
Okay, so take
Yes.
that and assign that into my string variable.
Yeah.
Okay, so now what we need to do is stop the server and run it again. So team and the name, this is the URL. So now go back to your Postman team. So instead of this, you will provide, team / here what you're going to provide the Java. So I'm going to run it now, send, say welcome, Mr. Java. So based on the resource, the appropriate method will be gets called. So who's doing the job? The controller will do the job.
Okay.
Okay. So now whatever we tried, it is just a simple get and the path variable. So for example, I have something like, let's say I have a student information. So I want to add a student or I want to print the student. Okay.
Yeah.
So how I can pass the student information to student. First of all, I need a class where I can store the student, right? Student, let's create a DDO.
Yeah.
So private string first name string last name, and then let's create setter, getters and setter, generate getters and setters for both of them. Okay. Okay, so now what I need to do is I need to pass this student information for a method. Okay, so get method cannot do that because it's an object, right? So get method, they don't know how to handle this. So now what I'm going to do, I'm going to create a method here. So basically what I'm trying to do is I'm receiving the student information and I'm printing it. That's it, nothing else.
Yeah.
Okay, so here I'm going to create a method,
yes.
public, and what I want to return is nothing but student. Okay, so add student. Let's say I will add the student and I'll return the same.
Okay.
Student and add student, and the input is going to be student. Okay, so here is the deal. So return null for now. Okay, so this is going to be a post method because I'm going to pass some DTO information here. So it cannot be handled in the get.
Yeah.
Okay. So now I'm going to create a post method, post mapping. And here what I'm going to do is I'm going to provide add student.
Yeah.
So basically what happened here, okay, so initially for the second method, I got the input from the path, but here, how do we get the inputs for the student?
We are calling in the class with REpresentational class, right?
We cannot pass it through the path variable because
yes,
if it is only two variable, I can use the path. Think about this one. A student has 10 different fields. Can you pass all those information in the path?
No.
That doesn't look good, right? So now what we can do is instead of passing through the path, we will pass as a request body. Okay. You remember here? Here.
Yes, here in the
modify as a post method, and here I'm going to modify this as the add student. So in the body, I can send as a JSON request. It automatically convert the data into a Java object. So I'm going to use the JSON here. Okay. So let's go back. This is the body part. So this body, I will provide the input, and when I hit it, it will take the data information from the body and it will go to this method because I have the resources called student. It get the input and it will appropriately assign to this particular.
Okay, got yes.
But I need to mention for this information is coming from request body.
Okay.
I have to tell the request body contains the student information. Take it from there.
Okay.
Okay. So now what it does is let's create a new student here. Student stu is equal to new. student. Or else anyway, what we can do is we can simply return it. We don't want to add it. Anyway, we have the student object, right? So I can simply return the student. Okay, I'm getting the student information and I'm returning it back. So if you want, you can write some database operations here, get the student information and store it in the database. That you can do it later.
Yeah.
Okay, so as of now, I'm getting a student information as part of request body, and then I'm gonna call it. So how we can do that? So we need to create JSON, right? JSON has to follow the DTO variable name reference. So first name, and here, this is how the JSON body looks like. So first name, and you have to provide some name here, comma, and then you have to copy it from the student.java. You cannot use some random keywords here.
Oh,
And here I'm gonna use this. So here first name is going to be test student or test student. Okay. So then now first name will comes to student and last name comes as like this. First name is test, last name is student. Say this is a JSON, but here the request body, the input is student. So basically what it does, right? It will take the JSON inputs. It automatically finds the fields, first name and last name. It will automatically assign to that DTOs, and then it will converted that into a Java object. You're able to understand the difference, right? It's a Java object and not a Java object.
yeah, JSON.
So JSON will convert it into Java object.
Yeah.
And how they will find out the proper field based on the field names.
Yes.
Okay. Because if I pass the first name, we don't know which field it's gonna affect. Okay. That is the reason we'll provide exactly same what we have in the student.java. So now what we need to do is stop the server and run it again. So now we're going to use the add student. Here we have an add student. Let's send. See, we got first name as a test.
Yeah.
Okay, but where is the last name?
Yeah.
Missing, right?
Missing, right.
Go back and check why the last name is not retrieved. Okay, you find the reason why it's not returned? Because the getter setters is only available for the first name.
Okay.
So now we need to generate the getters and setters for the last name as well.
Yes.
So now I stop the server and run it again. Started and then go back. Now I'm gonna hit it again.
Now we get.
Now we got.
Yes, got. Right.
Okay, so this is how you need to use the methods. This is enough for you to understand the basic level.
Okay.
Okay. So just try this, try to understand this. If you're able to follow this, which means when you go back to your project and started seeing the code base, you will be able to understand what the purpose of each and everything.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, sure.
Just read and let me know if you have any questions.
Yeah, sure. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah. See you tomorrow.
Okay. Thank you. Bye.